The recent Abu Dhabi Grand Prix of the Formula One World Championship closed the most glorious and probably successful chapter in the history of Formula One, with all due respect to Michael Schumacher and the Ferrari team. But in the case of Hamilton and Mercedes, they even surpassed them, although not in titles but in other stats like wins and poles. So on this channel, I wanted to pay my little tribute, small homage to that last race of Lewis Hamilton. There's been a lot of talk about Lewis Hamilton's last race, but what we're going to do on this channel today is actually, well, the opposite. Lewis Hamilton's first victory for the Mercedes team in Formula One, which as you all know was at the Hungarian Grand Prix, a track that Lewis Hamilton has always excelled at. And as I said, in that 2013 season, he achieved his first win for the Mercedes team. Look at those stats. Hamilton had 49 podiums and he had 21 wins. Seeing these numbers here gives you an idea of what both Hamilton and Mercedes have achieved, because those figures today, as you all know, are way higher. The podiums are already over 200 and the wins are over 100. It's incredible. I think that's the clearest proof of what that duo has meant. That duo between Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. To do this little tribute, I've decided to recreate that first victory because there's been a lot of talk in recent days about Hamilton's last race with Mercedes, the last one, the farewell, so why not do the first one now? And for that, of course, I've come to the 2013 Formula One video game, a game that I played back in the day, one that I really enjoyed, and in which we're going to try to replicate Lewis Hamilton's first victory with the Mercedes team in a race that's 100% in length. And while we're at it, let's also reminisce a bit about this video game. And as I said, it's already a classic, and honestly, I was really looking forward to playing it. So, let's note a couple of things. Are we going to start from the last place? Okay. From position, but 22 with the Mercedes, as I said. Why? Well, because I think the difficulty in this game wasn't that high either, so starting from the front in such a long race probably wouldn't be as challenging. I don't know, we'll see how the race unfolds, but I preferred the challenge of starting from the back because, as I said, the difficulty back then wasn't as high as it is today. By the way, we're playing on the highest difficulty, the legendary difficulty, but as I said, even the legendary difficulty, the highest one, wasn't anything out of this world. But anyway, we're starting the race, as you can see. And I also want to point out one thing. We're going to respect the AI a lot on the first lap, because back in those years, in this game, in 2013, 2012, 2014, the AI on the first lap was like a real turtle. In fact, if you wanted to, you could practically overtake the entire grid on the first lap. So, to avoid taking advantage of that, I'm going to be quite respectful, even lifting a bit. I mean, I'll definitely overtake some cars, but I'm not going to overtake them all. Not by a long shot. To everyone I could have overtaken if I had wanted to. So that's why in this first lap you're going to see me being a bit more cautious, right? It's more defensive. As for the race strategy, by the way, I should mention that we're going to replicate exactly the same strategy that Hamilton used for this race. But before I talk about the strategy, let me mention this first lap, which you can see is quite eventful. It's a first lap. Keep in mind that I hadn't practiced much either. I had done a few laps before to get used to the physics and to remember a bit how it was. But during the race, we're definitely going to improve a lot because, you know, it's 70 laps. That's a lot of laps. We're going to have plenty of time to a lot of progress in this race, right? So, here you can see that initially, these cars are really slow. We're going to start overtaking them. The Mercedes is also a very fast car in this game. And here we go, we're already overtaking. To the slower cars on the grid, here we have the Caterhams in front of us. In this case, the one driven by Charles Pic. And as I said, now I'll tell you about the race strategy that Hamilton used to win this race, which was a three-stop strategy. This season was heavily marked by degradation. It's remembered a lot for that, for the extremely high tire degradation. And as I said, Hamilton won this race with 3 stops. And that 3-stop strategy was starting on the medium tire and then putting on the hard tire 3 times, okay? So we have medium, hard, hard, hard. Let's see, the game recommended me to use the medium. Well, sorry, I said medium, I meant soft. In this regulation, there were still only 2 compounds, okay? What's happening is that since the tire is yellow, I'm getting a bit confused here. We also overtook on the straight with Ricciardo. As I said, these cars at the beginning weren't very difficult to overtake. Little by little, we're making progress and also managing the fuel, as you can see. But what I'm saying is, you know, wasn't it medium in this regulation, right? It was soft and hard. It didn't matter which compound was chosen. There were always only 2. And this time, the soft one is yellow. So that's why I got confused when I said medium. It would be soft, hard, hard, hard. Would that be the tire sequence we're going to use? Okay. The game suggested we use 2 softs, 2 hards, because since I didn't qualify, we have new compounds to choose from. But anyway, I wanted to replicate Hamilton's exact strategy. So that's why we are going to do in that way. Here we are still overtaking, or at least I'm trying, although Maldonado is making it a bit tricky for me, to be honest. I thought I had the position 1, but in the end he holds me off. I wasn't going too crazy with overtakes either. The car is really fast, and like I said, compared to these cars that are really slow, it's true that in some sections I get quite stuck behind another car, but we're getting past them little by little without any issues. I should also mention that I'm using a setup. For this race, I'm using a setup because, well, I want it to be comfortable. It's a track where it's really important to have a good setup. Maybe it would have been a bigger challenge if I had said, watch out, I'm making a mistake, I'm going wide. And well, now it's time for us to recover, but I mean, maybe it would have been a bigger challenge if I don't set up, but well, I didn't really know exactly how much it was going to cost me starting from the back, so I set up my car, a setup I had from a while back, and well, it's a setup that really works well for me, I must say. It's a setup that works like a charm for me, and I feel super comfortable with it on this track, in this game. And well, here you can also see me gaining the position directly and already brushing against the point zone.
And what was the problem here?
Well, the game recommended that I do, as I said, 3 stops with 2 softs and 2 hards. So, of course, it's very likely that the AI will go for that strategy, which is probably better than ours. But well, our strategy also has its advantages, and you'll see that next. We're already on lap 6, we're entering lap 6 now, and at this moment we're in the point zone. We gained the position. You can see that overtaking wasn't too hard for me, even though it's Hungary in the DRS zone on the main straight. I don't know if it was the setup or what, but it wasn't too difficult here. Well, we're starting to connect with this little train led by the Ferrari, I think, of Massa. Here I clearly find my rhythm getting better and better. Checo gives me some trouble, but I pull off the switchback and take the position. And now we're going to meet, well, the first driver who gave me a bit of a challenge. And we're talking about Jenson Button, who's right in front of us. Here we are already in 9th place. We're in the point zone. We're connecting with Lewis's Mercedes in this trio. From Button, the next one is Weber, I think, and Massa.
Jenson Button gave me the most trouble.
Overtaking here is tricky. It's hard to overtake on this circuit. He forces a mistake. I lost laps trying to overtake, but in the end, I managed to do it. It's a track where, in general, it's very hard to overtake. But here, I think I have the gap. I mean, I can dive inside. I've done it a couple of times with other cars, but I don't see it clearly. You can see that we're talking about cars that are still slower than ours. They're not that slow anymore. And the difference isn't big enough to overtake just anywhere, which is what I was doing before. Here, he pushes me a bit to the limit, so much so that he forces me into a mistake. I make an error, and I have to regain my ground, as I said. But yeah, I lost a couple of laps trying to overtake Button. The overtake got a bit tricky, I must say. In the end, you'll see that I managed to do it, obviously. But he made it a bit more complicated than I expected. It was the first time in the race that I really had to work harder for an overtake, here on the outside, taking advantage of the exit from the previous corner, which had been really good. And now we have this duo in front of us. From Massa and Weber, what was happening here? Well, what I was saying is that I didn't really know exactly what pace the front runners would have.
Like Fernando.
Those who were up there. Alonso, Vettel, I wasn't very clear on what pace they could have. So I didn't want to waste too much time trying to climb up because look,
the gap is already quite big.
Here I set the fastest lap of the race and take advantage of the DRS, even though Weber has it too. But look at the ease, so to speak. Here I push the braking a bit more, and I take the position from Weber. What I'm saying is, of course, look at the gap there is from Massa to the top 5. Clearly there's one pace here and another pace at the front, so I didn't really know exactly what time I needed to set to be catching up to the people in front. But well, here I only have Massa left. Once we overtake Massa, we'll have to push like crazy. Here I make a mistake because in that area, I could have messed it up. Take the position in this section. I was already very, very close, almost side by side. I had made life really difficult for him in that sector. And I take the position from Felipe Massa here. We were already in 6th place, and now it was time to push to the max to give it everything. Did we set the fastest lap again? Now we had the fuel fully enriched. And let's see, how far can we go? We started to catch up little by little to the people ahead, to the top 5. There comes a moment when my degradation starts to,
to come to me.
Isn't it one of the big problems in this game? Well, problems aren't a problem, it's realistic. The season, as I said, was like this, with a lot of degradation issues. And it's one of the most fun things about this game. But of course, degradation started to show up for me. You have to keep in mind that I had also had a very demanding first stint in terms of tires because I had to overtake a lot of people. And it's true that there came that moment when I said, well, what's going on? Well, I could anticipate my pit stop a bit. We're talking about me going for a more conservative strategy than the rest because I'm going to use 3 sets of hard tires and 1 set of soft tires. This allows me to anticipate the pit stops a bit because I have a greater margin. Whoever is going to make 2 pit stops, whoever is going to use the soft tire twice, is going to have to stretch each stint more. Because obviously, if you don't stretch it out, if you don't extend the life of your tire by using 2 softs, you're not going to make it to the end very well. Or maybe you won't even make it to the end. But if you use the hard tire 3 times, that means you'll have that certain margin to be able to, well, stop a little earlier, because in the end, you're going to put on harder compounds than your rivals, so you'll be able to stretch it out more. So I think that was one of the most important points to consider, that even though I was struggling with degradation, we were going to be able to counter it. But well, when I stop, I obviously find myself in traffic, of course, obviously. Entering lap 14, I must overtake drivers I've passed. Climbing up, pitting first, rejoining chaos. I have a better car, they had worn tires. In a Mercedes with fresh tires. Starting from the back, I pitted first, faced chaos, with a better car and fresh tires, overtook easily to 9th, chasing McLarens. But, well, it wasn't a big problem because now, on top of having a better car, they also had worn tires. I mean, tires that have been used for 14 laps. That's a lot of laps. And in the end, I'm in a Mercedes with fresh tires. So, well, they didn't give me much trouble. I overtook them relatively easily, and we were back in 9th place, hunting down the 2 McLarens. The 2 McLarens, here we go. I see them again. Checo Perez, Jenson Button, they're kind of working together. Let's see if we can overtake them.
And here you should look, because I want you to notice. I mean, I don't know if it will be clear on the video.
When the video is rendered and all that, it doesn't look as good. But look at Checo's tire. I don't know if you've seen it, how the degradation is noticeable and how that tire is already in a high phase of degradation, and you can really see the wear. The rubber that's wearing off, that's sticking to the tire. It's outrageous. The truth is that this game has some really good graphical details for it. Considering it's a game from 2013, it really has some very realistic details. And well, here we finally overtook Perez and Button, who was also starting to be a bit tricky for me. The truth is that Jenson, my former teammate at McLaren, was giving me a bit of trouble here trying to make my way up, because he was by far the driver I found hardest to overtake, apart from the top guys and all that. So that finally takes a problem off my hands, because you've seen that Jenson Button has pitted, so I didn't have to overtake him. It's a win for me. And here we are really cutting down, taking advantage of the fact that our rivals have also made their pit stops. In fact, here he comes out of the pits. I think it was Grosjean, I can't remember. Raikkonen, no, Grosjean. And pay attention here to the accident. This part of the race was very eventful. Rosberg and Raikkonen have an accident, and because of that, I have to go off the track on the outside of the corner. And what happens? Well, Croatian overtakes me again. Here Raikkonen breaks his wing, I think, so he loses any chance he had. And I think Rosberg, I don't know if he has any damage, but, well, here my engineer Usand is informing me over the radio that Raikkonen had damage, so Raikkonen was no longer going to be any kind of rival in this race. And we enter an important phase of the race because we're already on lap almost 20, and I still don't see, well, I can start to see Fernando in the distance. He was still far away, but here we dive the car on Grosjean. We regain the position, and now we find ourselves just behind our teammate Nico. Here Grosjean wants to get back at me a bit. I defend. I hold my position pretty well, and as I said, the next target was Nico Rosberg, who was in 3rd place. A really good position for Nico, to be honest. And here, watch out. There's a bug with a lapped car that causes Vettel to lose a lot of time, and Rosberg too. So what do I do here? I lift off.
And you may say, why?
Well, because man, it seemed a little unfair to take advantage of that to gain position. Considering that the AI is already not very good in this game, I mean, this circuit, I don't know what it will be like, if it will be better or worse than normal, but well, it's not the best AI in history. So I didn't want to take advantage of that. So, well, I lifted. It's true that I didn't recover the position. That is, the one who overtook me was Grosjean instead of Rosberg. But, well, it doesn't matter, Yusen. The thing was to let someone pass, right? At least to try to balance things out. The thing is, I ended up behind Grosjean, who was also battling with Vettel. This would put us in 2nd place if we managed to overtake both, since Vettel was already in 2nd. And here on lap 22, watch out, we're going for Romain Grosjean.
The Lotus is really strong.
If you remember, I dived to the inside here. I honestly didn't see that coming. I thought I wouldn't be able to overtake there, but I saw the gap and went for it. And before I get into what I was going to say, I want us to enjoy the luxury of watching a lap cockpit camera. What do you think if we watch a lap from the cockpit camera?
It's not for any special reason.
I just felt like taking a little spin. And I thought, let's go for the overtake on Vettel with the cockpit camera. And the truth is, well, I was really enjoying this view for a few minutes. There was no halo yet. I mean, the steering wheel, these cars, I have to say I really like these cars. I like them a lot. That Mercedes steering wheel, that sound, the sound in the video won't be very clear because obviously, if not, you wouldn't hear me. I really enjoy seeing this pop every now and then. This viewpoint honestly is really cool. And here we open up in the last corner because we're going to try to overtake Sebastian by opening the DRS. And let's see if we can complete this overtake. It's interesting that you can check it out. The rival this time, besides the Red Bull, which of course was a very fast car that year, is also the Lotus. You can see it in the rearview mirrors. How do our rivals look in the rearview mirrors? The Lotus was strong, winning the Australian Grand Prix with Kimi Räikkönen. See Alonso setting the fastest lap. Fernando is doing a fast lap, and here we have a problem as it's the first moment in the race where I thought, look at that gap increasing. A gap that was about 3 seconds increased to 4 and now to 5. Of course, I got worried here as I thought, wait, this could be the first moment where the race is really in danger. I decided to pit as I was losing time. I didn't know what difficulty I would face from the leader. So I was really nervous and I went into the pits because I thought, okay, I'm going to put on new tires to see if I can pull off an undercut or something because I was seeing that I was losing time. So of course, I didn't really know what kind of difficulty I was going to face from the leader because to be honest, the AI isn't that great, but still, I can't beat the leader starting from the back. I had my doubts, obviously, and here, well, I was a bit scared. I went into the pits to put on the new tires and try the undercut. Because, as I said, Fernando's pace was really good, and it was the first moment in the race where I didn't feel superior to the others. Fernando's pace was really good, and it was the first moment in the race where I didn't feel superior to the others. Throughout this part of the race, I thought, well, I can overtake rivals without any problem. But there Fernando gave me a good scare, and I thought, watch out, this race might get complicated. If we finish second, that's still a great result. Anyway, I come out of the pits and find Grosjean and Vettel again, who were clearly on a different pace compared to Fernando because he was way ahead of those guys. But still, I have to overtake them, right? Again, of course, if I ended up pitting, what I'm saying is that the good thing about anticipating the stop is that you don't have a problem doing it because you're going to put on several hard tires. But the downside is that you have to keep overtaking people, like I said, right? What I said before, people you've already overtaken, but, well, I wasn't really struggling in this part when they had worse tires. It's even easier, so it wasn't a problem. And here, now I really got serious. I started to push hard. Fastest lap of the race, I set a 21.0, and like I said, I don't know what Fernando's gonna do, but I think he made a mistake, because you can see that Fernando also had to pit, and I say, let's see if he's going to respond to me. I was gonna pit on the next lap on mine, but he didn't. I made my pit stop, I started pushing hard, and Fernando took an eternity to pit. I don't know why he took so many laps, but I think that was his punishment. I mean, I believe it was the worst decision he could make. Here you can see that Fernando is pitting. I already did an undercut. Of course, I come out first. I mean, he comes out second. And I think that's where he lost the race, I have to say. Because, like I said, the difference was, I mean, it was a very close moment in the race. There's a yellow flag, a Williams was in a moment. The race was very even, but after this moment, my cares broke, by the way. You can see it down on the right. From here on, Fernando was out. I mean, once I got into first place, with the calmness, obviously with the new tires, I started pushing. And that's when I really began to pull away from Fernando by a huge margin. There came a point in the race where I had it pretty much won. We were on lap 49 and my goal changed because I thought, well, I really have the race won here. You're going to see footage of how I'm lapping people. And I make my last pit stop on lap 50, right? With a few laps left, I led Fernando by 18 seconds. Confident of winning, I aimed to lap everyone, even Fernando. By lap 63, I lapped Grosjean and Vettel. I finished a minute ahead of Fernando, but couldn't lap him. We won with Hamilton, lapping all but second place. So, I don't play normally, I don't normally play, so of course, 70 laps I'm going to improve a lot during the race because practice is everything in the end. I managed to put a minute on Fernando, but I couldn't lap him. It was too much. But hey, not bad at all. We finished the race, we met the challenge, we won the race with Hamilton, we achieved our goal. And what I'm saying is that, yes, the difficulty of course over 70 laps, plus I think the setup was really good, I have to say. And look, we've lapped everyone except for the second place. I think if I hadn't messed around a bit at the beginning, at some point when I let them go, I think I could have lapped Fernando too. But the goal in the end was this, to win with Hamilton, to repeat the story from 2013,
And we made it. And now we have the victory cinematic with Fernando Alonso.
in my opinion, the two best drivers of Formula 1 at that time. From Formula 1 back then, and they probably still are. The thing is, of course, Max Verstappen is also in that fight now.
That's clear. So,
Hope you enjoyed the video. That's all from me, and I'll see you in the next one.